You want to see something really scary?
You bet.
Tear your soul apart.
Jesus Christ!
No, it's not.
Now, was that civilized? No, clearly not. Fun, but in no sense civilized.
And look at that. We decided to dust off deep cuts, the show that cuts deep into the heart of horror for a very special occasion. You all know it. We all know it. It just recently got announced as upon recording this. It just made $44 million on the first weekend, which is a franchise high. And because we had such a grand old time talking about it, and we kind of left it open-ended for this inevitability, we have to continue our discussion talking about Scream because Scream 6 is here. And I kind of want to keep it open as any excuse to continue talking to the ever so wonderful JT Tally Smith. Welcome back.
Yay! I'm
It's
so
as if-
excited to talk about Scream.
I want them to keep making movies so we keep talking about Scream. So
I mean, I don't need more movies. I can always keep talking about Scream.
this is also true. You just recently did a wonderful live stream, a 2-day live stream where you played all 5 in a row. I had so much fun doing that. I was like, I could watch these movies all day, and I did. Just spread out. But I didn't want it to end because I was having so much fun. But now we got this new one out. I've already seen it twice. How many times have you seen it?
So I've only seen it once, and as soon as we're done recording, I'm off to see it a second time, which I think is funny because I guarantee you, after I see the second time, I'm going to think back to everything I say here and probably have different opinions.
Oh,
and wanna change.
actually, I think we caught each other at the best time because some of the things even I've observed about this film, I'm pretty sure I'm going to plant in your brain. I'm going to spin that little top, and you'll be like, "Oh God."
No, I love it.
You said you actually got to work on 4 and 5 as an editor, but you did not get to work on this.
I worked on 5. I was just working in the machine room at the time.
Okay.
That was the funny story of how I got spoiled with the killer. I wanted to stay as far away from it as I could because I was so excited a new Scream movie. And we got the feature on a DV cam tape because that's back when we used DV cam tapes. And the producer came in and was like, "Oh, can you just pop this in, play it? We want to make sure there's no interlacing, like, issues with the grain of the film and stuff." And I press play, everything looks great. She's like, "Cool, just fast forward a little, make sure the tape is good." I hit play again, literally right when Emma Roberts takes her mask off.
Hello, Sydney.
Like, ugh! I didn't know about Charlie though.
Okay.
But yeah, Scream 5, I got to work on, I was mostly an assistant editor, but I worked on that one quite heavily. The trailers, they were made at Buddha Jones, and that was a blast. I had seen the whole movie a year before it came out and couldn't talk about it. And it's so good. If it was bad, maybe I wouldn't have cared, but it's so good. And I couldn't.
Oh yeah. And I remember that first trailer played so many times. It played like months before the movie came out. And I was like, I don't need another trailer. This trailer is outstanding.
Oh,
just for everything involving Jenna Ortega and just in the cold open. That's all I needed but to get me riled up. But
that trailer was cut by the indomitable Bill Neal over at Buddha Jones. So he's sort of the horror king when it comes to trailers.
On the other hand, you had no foreknowledge about, nothing. So how did that feel?
It was exciting. That was actually my thought going into it. I was like, this is the first time I have no idea. And I've been mostly staying away from the marketing, which is hard since, that's what I do for a living.
Yeah.
I saw one trailer and then that was basically it. And then the poster, obviously, they always love putting little teasers in the posters. It It was cool.
Was it the subway map one?
I mean, I saw a couple of them.
Okay, yeah.
And I did go to the Scream Experience here in LA. That was a blast. And I was told there's spoilers in it, but you wouldn't know if you hadn't seen it. And now I'm trying to remember. I'm like, well, what was the spoiler? I will admit, the movie was extremely predictable for me. And I don't know if they're all that predictable or it's because it's like I've been watching Scream so much. But that was the one thing I noted is I called it almost immediately. Not the motive, but yeah.
Yeah. I admit I did have yes, we are gonna go hardcore into spoilers. If you just want
cool.
Yeah. So you are warned. I was able to call the ringleader killer. I was able to call the ringleader, though the accompli, they did such a good job of making you think that one of them was not going to be the killer because they keep pointing the fingers at them being the killer. And the other one, granted, they pulled the Roman Bridger method, but they do it so early in the movie that the character's gone out of your mind by the time you get to it. So to their credit, the fact they did it so early, I didn't even think about her afterwards.
It was definitely smart doing it early. There was just something about her as soon as she was in, I was like, it's her. And then they killed her and I'm like, Roman Bridger. And I guess she was just on my mind. And then the Ethan guy.
Ethan Quinn and Sergeant Bailey. Those are our killers.
Okay, I knew Quinn. Ethan, I sort of had that whole it would be dumb if he was the killer because they keep joking that he's the killer, but then that would make sense that he's the killer.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of like, and then for me, it was as soon as Quinn mentioned her brother died, but then there was no other exposition given to that. I was like, well, I don't know what the story there is, but that's the key. That's what the plot's going to be about.
But I think at that point, I was so caught up in how freaking amazing the cold open was.
Yo, I loved it.
Yeah.
Loved it. My friend that I went with, she actually, her one small complaint, she loved the movie too. Her one small complaint is she said, they just didn't do enough with Samara Weaving. And listen, Samara Weaving is probably one of my top celebrity crushes. I have been in love with her since she was on those episodes of Ash versus Evil Dead. Yes, amazing. But I said, no, that's the point. She's the Drew Barrymore.
Exactly.
I mean, it wasn't a surprise at that point. Of course, the moment we saw her, we're like, okay, well, she's going to die immediately.
Yeah, but I love it. That's where you think it's going to be, just pure. But then all of a sudden, Ghostface takes off his mask and it's Zero from the Grand Budapest Hotel.
Oh, I love that you thought of that. I thought of Flash from the new Spider-Man.
One thing that I was being very smug about for the longest time, I had a prediction as to what the killer was going to be. And I know I went to you because I know you love true crime. My prediction was that the killer was going to be a true crime enthusiast. And, the trailers lent a lot of credence to that theory, what with the shrine devoted to the real kills and all that stuff. And it's like, that's where my thought process, I was this close. But the one major thing I was right about was that the killer wasn't going to give a shit about the movies. And I was right. Killer did not give a shit about the movies.
It's funny, as soon as they revealed Flash Thompson, sorry, I'm going with that, in the very beginning, I thought of you. And I was like, boom, there it is. He loves the movies. The actual guy who loves the true crime is going to kill him. And yeah, it was close. I have to admit, I wish they had gone more into that because I'm left wondering, why did Richie have a shrine to the actual killers if he loves the movies so much? Wouldn't he have maybe a section of based on the real stuff, but wouldn't it be like he'd be collecting all the movie memorabilia? That kind of like didn't really flow for me. Like he's all about Stab, but there was only one little table of Stab.
Then again, there are people in this world who are hell-bent to collect like screen use props. And to him, the real incidents are the movies to him. And his whole thing with the last movie was about creating another real incident to make another Stab movie with. So that way it can make the stab movies better, because obviously in his mind, the better stab movies were the ones based on real incidents.
All
So
right. I'll give that to you. I like that.
I just had to do some Mary Lou Retton in magnitude
You did.
gymnastics in my brain
You
to
did.
make that work. This is how I win duels with Last Jedi extremists, which, or actually, well, to win battles against them. One kill in the movie I was most sad about was Annika, Mindy's girlfriend, just because in the brief time that she's there, they do a great job establishing how sweet they are together. And that always makes it sadder when it's a happy couple who get separated.
Oh yeah. They were so cute together. And I think it's also because Mindy is sort of, at least she's like my favorite. And we saw Randy always had unrequited love and it didn't go anywhere. And now we got to see, well, Mindy has her lover and her happiness. And I think that's why it was so sad.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not peg her as a killer at all. Like I was like, she's the innocent baby.
Yeah. I mean, and not only that, you could tell so in love was she with Mindy that Mindy was flat out saying, "Oh, you might be a killer," and she just like took it as in like she's hot when she accuses.
Yep.
Which that whole scene breakdown was fantastic. I mean, even that I may take Quinn's lead when she's like, "Yeah, the slutty roommate." I was like, "Sex positive, please." I'm like, "Yeah, you know what? Let's change it. We're no longer the slutty characters in movies. We're the sex positive characters in movies."
Yeah.
Mary Lou Maloney, just sex positive character.
I agree with that.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely better than Joe Bob, where he said, let's stop calling it slut shaming. Let's call it slut celebrating.
Yeah.
One carryover of this film, which I'm really happy got a chance to be fleshed out a little bit more, because some characters in the previous film did kind of, I wouldn't say in the background, but they weren't as prominent. I will say flat out, I'm in love with the term Core 4 now.
Oh, yeah.
And more than that, just because Chad got to get so much more, sweetness this go around. And and I think I remember from our last go around, didn't I predict that he's going to be the new Dewey?
I think you did, because I immediately at the end of the movie, I'm like, he's the new Dewey.
And I was like, oh God, I was right. He's going to be the new damn Dewey. He's going to be the one the poor bastard who keeps getting slashed up and stuff like. But then again, in the third one, Dewey actually came out okay. He actually got to do the kill shot on the killer last time. So next one could be Chad's time to shine in stopping the killers. So, but I think one of my favorite scenes in the movie was that dinner that all of them at the dinner table when they find out that Sam's actually getting it on with Danny across the way.
Yeah. Cute boy.
Yeah, cute guy. Yeah, cute guy. And Danny was a surprise character for me too. I mean, yeah, but I liked how he understood her so much that when this shit was happening, I like how he realistically said, "Listen, you're in a position you don't know who to trust, so don't trust. Not even me." I just like how legit understanding he was of the entire situation. And anytime you see the scenario in other movies, you see the character would get wounded and just say, "Fuck off." I love the way, especially right before the final climax, she says, "No, this has got to be all Woodsboro," because she couldn't take the chance of someone that she only just knows.
It was a nice flip to what we saw in Scream 2. Jerry O'Connell's character, how he was hurt by that, which is understandable. That's a valid response too, but it was kind of nice seeing this guy who, they casted this guy on purpose because he looks like he should be the serial killer. He looks terrifying, and he doesn't smile much, and they sort of played it that way.
Sam's credit, I like that she unloaded everything on him, didn't lie to him, didn't say, "Oh, I'm not this person," or anything like that, because the liar reveal trope can get wearying. But I like the fact that he still goes in on the relationship even though she tells him everything. And to boot, it was actually a good move for her to do that anyway, because he very promptly got the cops afterwards. And it saved everyone's life. So good on you, Dan.
He's like, "All right, I'll leave, but I'm not gonna go sit on my ass and wait around."
Just say, and then just coming right in, come blank. So how'd it go?
Yeah.
Knicks are winning, by the way.
Yeah, right. So I was going to say how this movie for me anyway felt the killers were so predictable, but it didn't take away from the film at all. And I think it's because I love Sam so much. I think
Yeah.
Sam is such a really fun, interesting final girl. And if you just told me the plot of, oh, she's being haunted by hallucinations of her dead father that she never even met, I I would think that's the dumbest thing. And yet it works. I'm excited when she got to put on the costume and she got to talk to the police guy in the Ghostface voice. I
Yeah.
was so pumped up.
I did too. And man, she went just as ham on him as she did on Richie in the last one.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, yeah,
Oh,
she
yeah.
went hard. And also I like that there's this through line between the previous one and this one and possibly the next one, is that you kind of see this little glimmer that she might be enjoying it.
She told her therapist that
Yeah.
she likes it.
Played by Henry Czerny, who was in Ready or Not,
Yes.
as the patriarch of the La Domas clan. Lovely.
Yes.
Actually, I loved all the little Easter eggs that Radio Silence did for themselves all throughout this movie, even down to having someone in Halloween gear doing Grace from Ready or Not. It's like,
Yep.
I'm sure if I looked hard enough, I'd see some nod to Southbound somewhere in there. The set pieces in this one, I think, were just some of the most, and they really took advantage of the urban setting. It was just such a nice breath of fresh air compared to the more suburban settings and even the college settings of Scream 2. They really used the city for the setting this time around. So how'd you feel on that one?
I liked it because it was definitely a change of pace. It wasn't like when Jason goes to Manhattan, he only goes to Manhattan the last 10 minutes of the movie. We actually got to see New York as a character, and yeah.
I know one complaint about the movie is that they didn't do like the cliche New York spots. Like they didn't do.
Glad they did.
Yeah, and even Radio Silence openly said, "Listen, we're not going to do touristy New York. We're going to do like in New York City. So we're going to see them in an urban setting where it's not going to be as easy to hide, and not only that, some of the places where they're living may not be as accommodating. It's not going to be as easy as going out the front door when you live on the 7th story of an apartment building."
Yes.
So,
yeah.
and they took advantage of that. I mean, someone said the bodega scene was pretty much akin to Jurassic Park.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That is, very valid. I love that.
Okay, I got to give love to whoever edited the trailers versus the subway scene.
Oh,
that original trailer made it out like Mindy was in the same car with them.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I was thinking that the whole time, and as soon as we realized she wasn't in the car, I thought of the trailer and was like, oh, she's gonna die. That's what they were hiding. And then of course, thank God I was wrong, but I was so worried. I was like, oh no, they were hiding that on purpose.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And again, with the urban setting, I feel like they were able to use that to make Ghostface. Radio Silence really just knows how to make Ghostface intimidating, because some of the images that they created for Ghostface, amazing images. Even just the image of Ghostface emerging from the frosted glass. Yeah, from the psychiatrist kill scene. Even just him amidst other people dressing up. And there's a reason why they're dressed up, because Stab is, of course, a big old franchise. So it's easy to be actual Ghostface amongst other people just casually in Ghostface mask. Even one of them had a Pride Ghostface mask on.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, there was a Ghostface standing with a Michael Myers, just totally normal and chill. And makes sense.
It was out of focus, but even I was like going, is there someone dressed as John Trent from In the Mouth of Madness?
Oh, I didn't see that.
I think I saw that. Well, when you go see it again in the subway scene, there's someone just sitting there. Looks like he's in hospital scrubs, but his face is all covered in. He was out of focus, but it looked like his face was covered in crosses.
I mean, there was a lot of great horror costumes. There was definitely, there was someone from Midsummer with all the flowers. Yeah, there was some good stuff.
I live for Midsommar cosplay. I live for it. Actually, speaking of Jason Takes Manhattan, Lynn was hilarious. The one thing they said that they wanted out of this movie is like, it would be uncharacteristic of a Scream film to not at least make one acknowledgement of the other horror franchise that famously went to New York. But lo and behold, in the cold open, Tony Revolori sitting down watching Jason Takes Manhattan.
Oh, I cackled as soon as it showed that. I cackled out loud, and I think the guy next to me didn't get it, and he's like, well, "What the hell?"
That's all right. Jason Takes Manhattan, man.
I mean, since the moment they put out that teaser and revealed that it was going to take place in New York, everyone kept making that alluding to Manhattan. Jason Takes Manhattan. So you had to put that in there. I thought it was great.
Of course, one thing that has to be addressed, but frankly, I think it goes into why the movie still works in lieu of it, and we have to talk about it, unfortunately, is of course the controversy surrounding Nev Campbell's absence around this movie. Now, when we spoke about this last time, we did say we were good. I said I was good if Nev wasn't in this one.
I said that too. Like, I grew up with Sydney. Sydney Prescott to me is like the icon of strength and survival, and you can't keep bringing her back and making her live every time. They even said how stupid that was in Scream 5.
Yeah.
I want her to just live her happy life. This new cast of characters is so amazing. I am so drawn to them. They can carry it. Have little cameos, have nods, maybe a phone call or something, but let her live her life. And when Gail said that, yeah, she took Mark and the kids, that's what I want.
To a safe house. It's like, Sydney, you're 3,000 miles away. I think you're good.
Yeah.
I think you're good right now. But with that, it also leads us to Gail, of course, being back on this one. Now, I do definitely feel that this one at least gave Gail a chance to shine, because I did feel that she, in the previous one, granted, she had a beautiful scene with Dewey, and we did get to see her lament Dewey's demise. But I wanted to have some time where we actually got to focus just her on her world while she thought about that. And realistically, Gail was coping in the most Gail way possible, where she backs out on her word to not write a book, and she writes a book anyway. I would have been pissed, because normally for me, one no for sequels is when you have a character back out on their character development. For a lot of characters, if they did what Gail did, I would have said, get fucked. But for Gail, this tracks.
Coming out of tragedy like that.
And for her, it might have been the catharsis that she needed to write this book, just because she needed to do something. She needed to bury her grief in something. She even got new arm candy.
Yeah.
As
and
well.
Clearly wasn't that emotionally involved with him.
oh no. I love how after she sees his body, and I love it, those muscles didn't do any good. It's like, nope, clearly not. I'm like, damn, Gail, that's cold.
Yeah, she's numb. She's used to it. She's seen it all. She knows not to get attached anymore. I think that kind of is more of a tragic moment, as comedic as her line delivery is. It's tragic that it's showing that she expects this now. She just expects loss in her life. And
a good question, I want to pontificate on. Do you think, between all the years of all this, and of course with the loss of pretty much the only person who actually saw her as a human being, paired, and now with what just went down with her in this one, pretty much being the closest to death she's ever been, do you think this is going to have some kind of long-term effect on her in the future?
I don't know. Did you think it was weird that they did a whole scene where she's dying, and then they just had this throwaway line like, oh, Gail's fine. Like, it was like, Gail and Mindy are fine. And we see Mindy, but you don't even see Gail. It's like, but she's the only legacy character in this. And we're just like, oh, she's fine. Whatever. Moving on.
That's a good question.
Seems strange to me. I feel like the only way you could do the next Scream movie is a legacy would have to be the killer, or like Sam.
Talking about the killers, one thing that we did make mention of in the previous installments, and as much as I'm sad that this killer wasn't what I thought he was, basically a true crime enthusiast, we observed how these killers kind of carried through the themes of white privilege, how every single one of them kind of represented a certain angle about them. Now, it has already been said that these killers are basically Mrs. Loomis and company all over again. But whereas Mrs. Loomis, as we said last time, was a focus on the parents who don't want to take responsibility for their kids' actions, I immediately realized this is a different case. This is the case of a parent who is fully aware of how horrible their kids are, but they encourage it.
Yeah.
And when Bailey actually goes up and says, yeah, I didn't get it, but I love my son, so I indulged it. This is the parents who actually spoil their kids.
Yeah.
And as you could see, just by looking at both Ethan and friggin' Quinn, he did the same thing to all of them. He was the doteful parent who just completely just loved his kids and just showered them and gave them everything they want and spoiled the shit out of them and said that this behavior is okay.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's very interesting. I like that. I didn't really think of it. Like, obviously, I immediately thought of Mrs. Loomis, but yeah, I didn't think of it. The whole, she was the abandoning mother, and he just loved his kids so much. It's like
those parents who the teachers actually say, listen, your kid repeatedly kicked this other one in the nuts just because he was a paraplegic and probably wouldn't feel it. There's a problem with your kid. It's like, that's not my problem. It's your job.
Yep.
You're watching my kid. I'm sure you wish you could pause the movie to see every single Easter egg that was in that shrine.
What is this place? A shrine.
Oh God, yes. I will say, so the LA Scream experience I went to, it kind of had that setup.
Oh, really?
We got to walk through. Instead of pausing a movie, I got to look around at every little detail, and I noticed that it was all the stuff I saw was in the movie, and then the movie had some more. I'd have to look it up. I want to see if it was actually screen used, but it would make sense because it was from the actual studio that did this for a short time. And
yeah, why am I on the sucky coast?
Yeah, it was pretty cool. They had the costumes on display and those drawings. I loved the drawings.
Yeah.
Like, it makes you wonder, was that Richie? Like, was Richie an artist? Did he draw out all of these all these things?
Yeah. And actually, speaking of which, I liked how this one also called out, because one thing I was thinking about with the last one, it really, especially after rewatching it when we were doing our binge, it seemed like Amber did most of the work in Scream 5. And I like that this one actually said that, actually called out the idea that Richie maybe just was like a little bitch boy who let other people do the job for him. And I was like, yeah, kind of did. Because deconstructing, I'm like, I think the only people Richie actually killed was Deputy Hicks and Wes.
Yeah. I think so.
I think so. Other than that, he spent most of the time eating Pizza Hut and watching fake Dark Side Dead Meat in Chelsea, or James and Chelsea. No, that was the evil James and Chelsea. I'm foolish. We have to talk about the other returning character, the one that we were so excited about, thanks to that Easter egg that you very astutely pointed out. And at that point, I had not noticed it, but you did, and you told me about it. And the fact they followed through on it, we got Kirby back. And she is a freaking stylish FBI agent. I want to get Lynn that jacket. That awesome jacket with the buckles on the... That jacket is fire right there.
We should have all known she wasn't actually FBI at that point wearing that jacket.
I still believe that she is. Remember the person who said that she wasn't FBI.
Right.
Yeah. I still believe she is. I just think she's cool FBI.
I mean, it's Kirby. She's always cool. Yeah. I loved the moment of her and Mindy, and they didn't even agree on everything.
Yeah.
They explained it and understood it and respected each other.
Yeah. Well, I even like how she said, "Oh, I like Ford because I had I crushed on Corey Feldman." Though it would have cracked me up in the background if maybe like either like someone in the background screamed, "Part 6!"
Oh God. Yeah.
Because sorry, I'm a 6 man. That's Part 6 is my top.
Oh no, final chapter. I just like Kirby. As soon as she said that, I was like, that's
Now, when it was floated to the possibility that Kirby may have gone off a rocker, did you believe it in any way?
So I started to think that, when the detective, the dad, I already forgot his name. See,
Bailey.
I'm not Bailey. Thank you. He's like the only one I can't remember his name.
Yeah.
The moment he said look into her, that's when I was like, oh no, I bet she's not FBI or something
she did just
crazy
show up.
But yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But they revealed it too quickly to me. Like, because when they revealed the killer, like you're never gonna have someone just say, oh, that's the killer. You have to have that moment of them taking off the mask, or like Amber just shooting the girl in the head. Like,
Still one of my favorite reveals.
best reveal, hands down. You know, it can't just be like, oh yeah, so and so's the killer. So as soon as they started making that a legitimate fear, that's when I was like, oh, okay, that would be too easy. And I'm kind of glad they didn't go that route.
Yeah, me too.
Not just because I love Kirby. I mean, I think it would be fun to see a favorite character be a killer, but it's like, it felt like, oh, you would bring her back just to throw her under the bus. So yeah, I'm definitely glad they didn't do that.
But if you're going to do it with a legacy character, it's going to be one that we're not, even though we love, we're not as attached to as we do the others.
Yeah.
You know, because at least with Kirby, she was only in one other movie, and now she's back here again. But no, I'm with you. I'm glad that she turned out to be on the level and even more resilient than before. And she got to kill Ethan with a TV.
Yes.
And not just any TV, Stu's TV.
I couldn't believe I am still, I know we talked about it last time. I am
We
still
did, but we could talk more about it.
Yeah, Stu is dead. I know it's a controversial thing. I believe Stu is dead. And I laughed so hard when Mindy was like, unless he isn't.
I was like, Mindy, don't do it. Don't go down that hole. Don't go where we can't follow.
Of course she would. Of course she would, though.
She would. And so I think it's pretty safe to say Scream 7 is a lock. Oh, yeah. Well, Lynn made a very astute observation, and we already dabbled in this a little bit in talking about the comparisons to Mrs. Loomis. Lynn made a very keen observation about the fact that there are 3 killers in this one. We're not just paralleling Scream 2 here. We're also paralleling not Scream 2 specifically, but the first draft of Scream 2.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Which in the first draft of Scream 2, it was 3 killers and the motive was revenge. Mm-hmm. And then it got me thinking about the previous film. What was something that was supposed to happen, but because an actor was so damn endearing, they kept him alive?
Well, Dewey was supposed to be the killer.
Dewey was supposed to die in the the first. Yeah, originally, but they loved David Arquette so much they did an alternate take of him being wheeled out.
Right.
So he was supposed to die. So it has now occurred to me, I think with this trilogy, they're actually doing all the things that they wanted to do or couldn't do in making the first trilogy. Mm-hmm. They killed Dewey in the last one when he was supposed to die at the end of the very first one. So, but now, and of course, Scream 2, legendarily, because the script got leaked, they forced them to have to do drastic rewrites, and we got the ending that we ended up with. So the ending of this one is what was supposed to be the original ending of Scream 2, where one of the killers was the heroine's roommate.
Right.
Yeah, one of the killers was supposed to be Hallie, who was Sydney's roommate. Now one of the killers is Sam's roommate. So that leads us to pontificate on what's to come in the next one, based on what should have been with Scream 3. And this is why I have a suspicion that we may see Stu again, because one of the things that they did say in early development of Scream 3 was a possibility that Stu would be coming back.
They did.
Yeah, they did.
They keep teasing it so much.
And you know what? I'll take it over Kylo and Rey kissing any day. So, yeah, so.
That's fair. I mean, it would be, it depends on how they do it, but I think it could be really fun. You know what? I want to know, when do we see Joel again? Joel was so smart. He just got in a cab and left, and he's going to pop up one day and be like, guys, just leave.
Yeah, and I think didn't you tell me the great story where the behind the scenes story? They say where Wes asked him, like, how do you think you're going to leave this cab?
He did.
And he did.
that actor, he is like, I don't think my character would stick around. He
After what happened to
cabin
Randy?
leave.
No.
And Wes
Oh.
Craven said, yeah, do
Yeah.
that.
Oh, but here's another parallel for Scream 2 versus this one. You remember one thing everyone was pissed about Scream 2?
I don't.
Randy getting killed.
Right.
So the Randy figure survives this one.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's exactly what they're doing. Not only are they doing the things that they didn't get a chance to in the first trilogy, they're also taking the time to rectify certain things that people were pissed about the previous iteration. So, but there's one other thing about my theory. Remember one offhanded line Jennifer said before she got killed? She said, "You can't kill me. I'm the killer in Stab 3."
Yeah. Yeah. I think about that all the time.
I think Gail might wind up being the killer in the next one.
She wouldn't surprise me.
Especially since there was a line where Ghostface says, "You'd made a great killer, Gail."
Yeah. I mean, I feel like they were doing that because everyone expected her to be the killer.
Mm-hmm.
And so they had to kind of make a nod to it and show like, oh, she's definitely not the killer in this. I think before I would have hated the idea just because it's like, but after all this, going back to what you said, after all this character development we saw, like why would suddenly, but now I'm thinking like, it could make sense. It could absolutely make sense. And I think if done well, it could be really enjoyable.
Which I will say I'm confident in the hands of Radio Silence. I think they actually could do something really good with it. It's alluded to in Scream 5 when she says to Sydney, "This all started because of me. I wrote the book about your mother. This kind of started." I legitimately believe after losing Dewey and basically being near death as she is at the end of this one, I think she's going to finally be over this monster that basically she helped create. Because after the Woodsboro murder, she wrote the book, she championed the movie. Even after the bad press of the killings, she still pushed forward with it. And she unfortunately helped create this monster that perpetuated and ended up creating people like Richie.
Yeah.
So I have a feeling that the next one is going to be about Gail wanting to just expunge everything, just get rid of all of it. And here's what I think the cold open should be. Stu. She finds out that Stu is still alive, and his parents were pretty well-to-do, so they probably hid the fact that he survived, got him all the medical treatment, but unfortunately he had to keep a low profile because he's Stu Walker.
Yeah.
So they probably had him pushed away somewhere, like somewhere hidden away where he's probably drunk off his ass, basically just living with the regret of what he did because he didn't have a good motive to do what he did.
No.
So he's probably living in a drunken stupor, just living with pangs of regret. I think the cold open is going to be all him. I think it's going to be him getting killed because Gail was able to figure out where Bailey's shrine was with her investigative instinct. It's not beyond the sphere of possibility that Gail could figure out that Stu's still alive, where he is, and all that. So.
They definitely set that up. And honestly, that is one of my favorite things about the opens. The first Scream movie, I mean, the whole point was Drew Barrymore was supposed to be Sydney, and she's the one big name in it. And she was the one who's like, no, it would be way more crazy if you killed me. I want to die in the first scene, but don't tell anyone. And so that's why she's on the VHS cover, I guess DVD cover or poster, I should say.
Brilliant marketing.
People thought, she was going to be at least one of the main characters, and then to kill her off so easily. So I would love to see, like, Samara Weaving is a huge name in the horror community, but you knew, like, as soon as you saw her in the beginning, you're like, okay, well, she's going to die first. I think the only way to really step that up is it would have to be a legacy. And that was actually why I was so against Scream 5 when they first announced it, when they first greenlit it. I said the only way you could do it properly is to kill Sydney in the open, in the cold open.
Yeah, I remember you even said that last time.
I was so glad they did not do that, obviously. And I even if they did it, I don't want to pay money to watch Sydney die after all of that character development and treatment we've had. But I think bringing back Stu for that purpose would be amazing.
It would also be a nice troll because Scream's a franchise that's great with trolling. So I think that would also be a great troll to everyone, because there's so many people who want Stu to be like the big old mastermind of everything. I'm like, oh, guys, Stu is not that smart.
Schumacher, he was just in love with the wrong guy and was an idiot.
I am good with that fan theory.
Matthew Lillard and Skeet Ulrich came up with that as their backstory.
Oh, they really did.
Yeah, which is why you can see that at the end. Like they were never allowed to like make it obvious or canon, but that was just their backstory of how they justified their characters doing things. Was Stu was in love with Billy, and Billy, being a psychopath, was able to use that.
Probably may ride the coattails, or they may continue to ride with the idea that Billy Loomis is Sam's biological father. There's a part of me, I think it would even be more fucked up because we haven't actually met the Carpenter's parents yet.
That's true. That's true.
I would actually like to meet Sam and Tara's mom and find out that she made that shit up, that she just wrote it in her diary, that you find out she's an alcoholic. She's someone who very clearly probably has severe feelings of, anxiety towards an inadequacy. She probably wrote that shit in her diary to make herself feel special, because maybe she's hooked up with a guy she thought was boring. And here's Sidney Prescott being all exciting because, she was able to survive and hook up with a serial killer, and probably in her teenage adolescent, insecurities, probably fantasized about, or like made up a fantasy that she was one of Billy Loomis's flings. And
I mean, they definitely went out of their way to bring up the mom. And like in this last movie, what is she doing and why isn't she here? And what I've noticed is, just like when Quinn mentioned her brother died, but then there's no other story, is when they do that in Scream, like, oh yeah, no, we just don't talk to each other and that's it. You don't know anything else. That means there's a story there.
And I feel like there's a story that could be told about the idea that maybe Sam, all of her psychoses, all of these hallucinations she has, all started from a lie. And unfortunately, it was a lie that her mother did nothing to get rid of for the sake of damaging her daughter, because of, just for the sake of her own, maintaining her own little happy illusion that she's worth a damn. And unfortunately, now her daughter leads her daughter down a downward spiral of freaking drugs and then abandonment. And now freaking consistent madness into the worry that she's going to be just as psychotic as what she perceives to be her father. I'm like, there's some rich material you can get into by reverse Ray Palpatining it.
Yeah. I mean, that'll be interesting. I'm really enjoying the whole daughter of Billy Loomis thing, but yeah, that could be. There's a lot there.
Radio silence. Pay attention to us. We're giving you gold. All right.
Usually, though, once you say it as a fan, then they can't do that.
I know. Yeah. Oh, I know. And as I said in my my TikTok review of Scream 6, I said I never want to be right about anything. I'd rather be surprised.
Yeah. Agreed.
I can predict all I want, but ultimately, I'd rather be surprised than right any day. Yeah. When you walked out of Scream 6, did you have any kind of thoughts about what would happen next?
I think the biggest things I was dwelling on was Gail. Being the fact that we never saw her. We just had that flippant line that she's alive. So yeah, I was already putting it together in my mind how she could potentially be the next killer. I'm interested to see where they're going with Sam, because I think they wrote this knowing they're writing the third installment. Whether it got greenlit or not, it's definitely going to be a continuation. And I mean, if she ends up becoming a killer, it would almost be too predictable in a way. So I'm really intrigued with what they're doing. But I have to say, after this movie, she's one of my favorite final girls ever. I think that she is just so fascinating and interesting. I love the relationship of her and her little sister.
Yeah.
So
I'm kind of impressed that we've gone on for as long as we have, and we have not actually just focused entirely on Jenna Ortega. But then again, the rest of the internet's already doing that anyway. So yeah. Yeah. She kind of exploded last year between Scream 5, X, Studio 666 and then Wednesday. She kind of exploded.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we love Jenna, but you don't need us to keep saying that.
Yeah, no, I think, yeah, Tara. I just love the whole relationship of Sam and Tara. I think that they're.
One thing I really was impressed with her at the very beginning was I never got the vibe that she was 100% blasted at that party scene. I was like, she said, fuck it. And I, as if like she knew what she was, it's like she knew that she was getting into. She's like, screw it. Life is shit. I need to get something. I don't know. I was really impressed with just the way the way she performed that scene where, I don't know, I'm going to some weird territory, but it's like, it was fascinating to see that that's how dangerous she was willing to live at that point. I guess when you get filleted and survive, I guess you feel indestructible.
Yeah, I think like this movie, we're getting to see how the new cast is coping with everything. Not just obviously how Gail was coping too, how we already mentioned that. And so we're seeing Sam is in therapy and trying to deal with it, but by hyper fixating on everything, that's her way of dealing with it. Whereas I think Tara has just gone numb to it in a way that she's just, as you said, fuck it, and is doing all the adrenaline thrill seeking stuff and trying to live as much of her life as she can. Like, you know, there's some kind of feeling in there that she may not be able to picture a future after what happened.
It's a really great conversation scene between her and Kirby because of the fact that both of them were survivors, and you know, both of them talked about how they coped afterwards. You know, because I can't even imagine. I mean, I've had my own near-death experiences, but never anything as horrible as either of them went through, where those two, like Kirby said, she was dead for 4 minutes. How do you deal with that afterwards? And it's fascinating that Kirby went the Batman route, but it's awesome that she went the Batman route.
It kind of makes sense too, because she's the one who was sort of already desensitized to everything because she is the horror fan, and not that real life experiences are anything like in the movies, but I think because she already sort of had that cynical view of the world, that dark humor of things, and saw that she would be the type to, instead of totally despair in it, is able to find some kind of hope in it and want to fight back. It just, that for me tracked with her character.
And that's actually a very poignant note to, you know, as a final thing to go out on here. When outsiders looking in towards horror fans asking, why would you watch this stuff when the world is such a horrible place? And it's like, because we know the world's a horrible place, and watching stuff like this actually kind of helps us, you know, come to terms with it or visualize it in a way that'll make it palatable for us if we were ever confronted with the horrors of the real world. And I think that's probably how Kirby was able to deal with it.
Yeah.
And a good message for horror fans out there. And I think that's why I am encouraging people, watch more horror. You know, after the shit we've been through the past couple of years, it makes things a heck of a lot easier to take when stuff goes south.
It does. I mean, and I love that both her and Mindy didn't lose their love of horror films after this. They definitely, I think, lost a layer of innocence for sure, but they still loved horror movies, and they still, I think, were able to use that as a strength in a way.
I mean, I did love how poor Mindy just kept like going, God damn it, I got it wrong again.
I missed the monologue.
Yeah, I missed the monologue.
I love that. She was so good. Oh, you know what? Here's an interesting thought I realized, and maybe I'm wrong, and when I go see it again, I'll see something, but Ethan actually took her to the hospital?
No, he didn't. No, what he did was scream, you know, for someone to help, and then I guess Subways had paramedics. Paramedics showed up on the scene to take her to the hospital.
Right, but I mean, he got her help.
Oh yeah, well, because it would look weird that, you know, her friend that she was on the train with would just walk away or something like that. I guess he wanted to keep up appearances that, oh, it's your friend, and, you know, your friend who you've already been like ousting as the killer. He probably didn't want to arouse suspicions, particularly if Mindy was still alive. that Ethan would just run off, that she could still potentially grab her phone and say, I just got stabbed by Ghostface and Ethan just ran off. So he probably wanted to do it to keep up appearances.
I guess, yeah. It just, I was like, seemed like a good opportunity to make sure she was dead.
Mm, yeah, but at the same, I guess sometimes you catch more flies with honey than you do vinegar. And yeah, silencing her is one thing, but I'm pretty sure that was Quinn who did the stabbing on the subway train. Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, she had an opportunity to do the kill shot, but very clearly failed. So it would have looked even more suspicious that after Quinn had absconded, that Ethan would walk up to her and finish the job, especially when the lighting was. It would have been a lot harder for him to A, finish the job, and B, walk away. So the only thing he could do is keep up appearances and scream, "Oh my God, help, someone help her." Also, that's good for the audience too, to make us think that, oh, maybe he wasn't the killer because he was standing there while she got stabbed by someone else.
Oh, for sure. That would have been a crappy reveal for us as the
Yeah.
audience. I'm more thinking, yeah, of character motivations, but
Mhm.
yeah.
Well, no, I get your point. Yeah, at that point, it was a well-lit subway train, and the train was filing out and filing in. People would have noticed someone stabbing
Yeah, okay.
someone.
Fair
Yeah.
enough. There was one fun Easter egg I loved that Tara was rushing for. I believe she was rushing for Omega Beta Zeta.
I did. Yes, I did catch that. Immediately, my brain was like, "Wait, isn't that the sorority that Sydney was almost pledging for?" And the only thing funnier than that is the fact that the first time we see Ethan, he's dressed up as the main character from the movie Murder Party.
Yep. Yep.
I was like, of all the movies you're cosplaying from, you don't strike me as a Murder Party kind of guy.
I guess that was how they kind of weaseled it in that he likes
Yeah.
horror films.
I get, yeah. Now, admittedly, I never roomed at my college, so I didn't know how the politics of getting your roommate thing. So I don't know. Yeah, actually, funny enough, because we saw him dressed up as the guy from Murder Party, when we see him again sitting at the bench, I was like, "Who are you again? Where'd you come from?" Because I didn't recognize it because he's, in that cardboard getup. So, I mean, I suppose I was also just distracted by Chad. I'm like, Chad, are you dressed up from One Piece? What do you come to this party as?
Yeah, I didn't know what he was supposed to be.
Yeah, sexy farm boy from farmer porn, I guess.
I think he was just like, I don't have to wear a shirt.
Which,
that's my cosplay.
To Mason Gooding's credit, he can do it.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, he can get it. I did not know this until I found this out. That's Cuba Gooding Jr.'s son.
Oh, yeah.
I did not know that at all.
Oh my goodness.
Now that I see it, I can't unsee it, especially with his boundless enthusiasm. And now Chad is kind of officially becoming, like, for me, like one of the most endearing characters in this new trilogy, because the fact he's so enthusiastic about their trauma, he channels it into something as adorable as Core 4.
I have a friend that was not stoked on the idea that he lived, only because no one could survive that many stabs. Like, it's just silly. It's just ridiculous. And it's like, I want to be like, but these are Scream movies. This is not like realistic. The whole point of these movies is that they're fun to watch. And it is fun to see this endearing guy keep surviving. Like, you need this character. That's why you had Billy around for so long.
Exactly.
Speaking of, only because we mentioned it during my Screamathon, did you also get a little emotional when they played the riff from Broken Arrow?
I did.
When
I heard it, I was like, oh, no, don't play that riff.
I love that they're just embracing Broken Arrow. They're not even trying to use their own.
Not even hiding that Hans Zimmer riff, which, by the way, I figured out, no, Hans Zimmer actually composed Broken Arrow.
Okay.
Yeah, I did find that out. I suppose we can go all day speculating about what's to come. I mean, I think it's blatantly clear at this point there will be a 7. I'm hoping Against Hope Radio Silence is going to be back to do it again. I'm not only that, I'm just impressed that only after under a year of development, they were able to make this movie and make it as good as it turned out to be within a year's development. Usually that tends to be a creative death when they rush through a movie in production like that.
Yeah. So, I mean, you have to wonder if they already had ideas planted.
Yeah. I mean, God willing, if Radio Silence started doing cons, I would want to ask is like how much of it was pre-planned, because there's no way that you could have made that movie that good with such a limited time. But they said that they immediately started work on it after the premiere, like after the obviously the very enthusiastic response to the premiere. And I think they said right then and there they immediately got word that they want them back to do the next one. It just wasn't announced publicly until like after the movie came out in theaters.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Still damn good turnaround.
I loved it. It was fun. I didn't even care that it was predictable, because I feel like we're kind of moving away from how the spotlight needs to be on the killer. Now the spotlight feels like it's more on the final girls. I didn't care that it was so predictable, because I was so engrossed in what was going on with Sam and Tara and them. I just still hope, I know fans are going to hate me, I still hope Nev Campbell or stays away, or only does little like a cameo or something. Like I want Sydney to just go live her happy life with Mark Kincaid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm on that same boat. However, I will say, if the things we've speculated on in the course of this, I would say particularly the notion if Gail does turn out to be the killer, I can't see Sydney not being involved.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Because that's something personal. The idea that someone who she had survived so long with succumbs to despair and becomes the monster that they've been fighting, and ultimately that I have a feeling Nev would want to be on board for a script like that.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure, because I do believe it's been speculated that Nev will never do it on two conditions, or on these two conditions, she will never do it. One, if Sydney's the killer, and two, if Sydney dies.
Okay. I mean, that would make
if that gives you any kind of,
that was cheating, but
it's cheating. But you know what? I agree with both of those terms. It would be completely not her character to become the killer, and it would also be an insult to her power as a heroine if she died.
Agreed.
In the same way how I was stoked about Halloween Ends and the fact that Laurie ended up surviving at the end of that one too.
Yes.
Yeah. So I feel like if Sydney's involved, if this is going to be a wrap up to the trilogy, and if that's the route they take, yeah, then I do feel Sydney does need to be involved. But other than that, yeah, let her have her happy moment, happy life with Detective McDreamy.
I would love to see him come back.
Yeah, I kind of do too.
He's stayed far away from these stuff.
Yeah, kind of has. And I'm sorry, dude. I mean, I'm sure you're living nice off the Enchanted 2 residuals, but come on, dude.
Yeah.
Detective Kincaid. And bring your partner again, too. Bring him back.
That guy is so underrated. I'm sorry. I think he's like the funniest character in this franchise.
Isn't to presume that Cotton's death had anything to do with this movie, is there?
He was making a movie called Stab. He was stabbed.
Thanks for coming back for this one. For all those listening or watching, I may consider turning this audio to a podcast, but we're definitely going to put this up on YouTube. Thank you all for coming back again. What are your thoughts on Scream 6? Put it all down there. Be nice. Oh, and before we finish, tell us about where you're at. Like you were on Twitch before, but now you're going to be transitioning over?
Yeah, I think so. I haven't quite looked into it, which is why I know it makes it hard for people to follow me. But if you follow my Instagram at that horror queen, I will definitely be putting any and all info on there. I love doing my stream Twitches, but my Twitch streams, but it sounds like Stream Lounge is going to be much easier. So I will be setting up a Stream Lounge under the same name, That Horror Queen. And who knows, maybe some Elvira knockoff might make an appearance.
Hey, you know what? Cassandra Peterson has since retired, so we need someone to fill that void. I mean, I dread to think of the day we ever lose Joe Bob Briggs, but I want to step up. But I feel like we need to have the new crop of horror hosts. So I feel like me, our lovely friend Ruby Tombsday. I feel like I think we need to be at the forefront of the next pioneering generation of horror hosts.
Yes.
There we go. All right. So yes, follow Tally on That Horror Queen on Instagram and keep an eye there for everything she has in store. Also, even continue to follow me on TikTok, also on Narcotic Casserole, and I will myself be doing some streaming on Stream Lounge as well. It is actually quite wonderful, especially for co-hosting. But there, I've been like doing live streams of the Chucky series. Might be doing a couple more things down the line. And in the meantime, while you're pontificating on what's to come in the Scream franchise, ask yourself the very simple question: what scares you?